everyone, and welcome back to the Listen Up Grow podcast, your go-to podcast for LGBTQ plus news, culture, and stories shaping our community right now. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman, and today's episode is a lot. We're talking about protest, hypocrisy, celebration, legal battles, and a little bit of queer joy to balance it all out. Because in a week where rights are being challenged across the country, the community is still showing up, still fighting back, and still finding ways to celebrate. Our first story is Trans Day of Visibility March in New York City. We're starting with something very powerful today. When they change our gender, how do we respond? With a gender reveal party. And that's exactly what happened in New York City, where activist Ashley Ryan organized a bold, joyful march for Trans Day of Visibility. Hundreds showed up, trans people and allies, turning protest into celebration. Think glitter, color, community, and a very loud, very clear message. This wasn't just a march, it was a resistance. It was a reminder that visibility itself is powerful and that joy can be a form of protest. Because in a moment where trans rights are under attack across the country, simply existing and celebrating that existence is radical. This next story is going to be a little bit longer than my other stories today because I really want to focus on it because I think it's important. It is the Kristi Noem story. So let's talk about the story that is going across the internet and making everybody talk. And I'm not talking about Amanda Batula, Wes Wilson, and Kyle Cook from Summer House. I am talking about Kristi Noem's husband. Reports have surfaced this week, primarily from tabloids like the Daily Mail, claiming that Byron Noem, husband of Kristi Noem, has allegedly been participating in online communities centered around gender expression and fantasy role play. According to those reports, the activity included engaging with adult content creators and exploring bimbofication spaces online. So he is looking to be a bimbo, so bimbofication, in case you didn't get that, because I've never heard that word until this news. Now, let's be very clear. There's nothing inherently wrong with exploring identity, fantasy, or gender expression. That is not the issue. What has people talking is the contrast, because Kristi Noem has built much of her political career on restricting LGBTQ rights. She has signed a ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth, one of the country's early bans on trans athletes, legislation framed as religious freedom that critics say enables discrimination. So the conversation happening right now isn't about personal behavior. It's about political hypocrisy. It's about lawmakers. It's about how lawmakers regulate and restrict the lives of LGBTQ plus people, where similar expressions exist much closer to home. Her spokesperson said the family is devastated, though specifics weren't clarified. And online reactions have ranged from humor to frustration to much deeper conversations. Why is gender expression acceptable in private, but legislated against in public? Why are some people allowed exploration while others are denied existence? Because at the end of the day, this story highlights something much bigger, the gap between political rhetoric and personal reality. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you really need to Google Byron Noem, Kristi Noem's husband, to see the pictures of him with these enormously huge fake breasts and a little pink miniskirt and a wig, and he is dressed as a bimbo, quote unquote. And again, nothing wrong with it, but you can't have a wife that hates trans people and hates the LGBTQ plus community, and then you get caught doing this. Next story is Idaho bathroom bill. After speaking of legislation, Idaho has passed one of the most extreme anti-trans laws we've seen. HB 752 makes it a criminal offense for trans people to use a public bathroom that align to their gender identity. Yes, criminal. The law applies to government buildings and public spaces, and violations could carry several penalties. On top of that, Idaho has moved forward with banning pride flags on government property, forcing cities like Boise to take theirs down after flying it for over a decade. This is part of a growing wave of legislation targeting trans people, particularly in public spaces. And advocates are warning these laws don't just limit access, they create fear. Again, this country, this government spends so much time on less than 1% of the population trying to hurt trans people when they just want to live their life. I just don't understand it. And I'm glad I don't understand, because maybe if I did understand it, then I would be one of them, and I'm glad I'm not. So next, the DOJ versus Minnesota. Meanwhile, at the federal level, the Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against Minnesota. The issue, trans student athletes. Minnesota has long allowed students to compete in sports aligned with their gender identity, but the DOJ argues that policy violates Title IX. The stakes here are huge. The federal government is threatening billions in education funding if the state doesn't comply. Minnesota's Attorney General pushed back hard, calling the lawsuit bullying vulnerable children. The case could shape the future of trans inclusion in schools nationwide. Now we have a nice, amazing story about Zendaya's queer joy moment. So let's take a breath and talk about something more joyful. Zendaya just made a lesbian couple's dream come true. Ahead of her new film release, she has reportedly helped pay for a wedding dress for a queer bride, Alex Warren, and her partner, KB White. And honestly, this is the kind of allyship we love to see, because representation matters, but so do these real personal acts of support. Moments like this remind us joy still exists, even in heavy times. Thank you, Zendaya, for being an amazing person and an amazing ally and making these two women so happy on their day that they're getting married. Amazing. Now, a more serious story. Pastor Robert Morris, who once served as a spiritual advisor to the Orange Convicted Felons campaign, has been released from jail after serving 6 months. He previously admitted to sexually abusing a 12-year-old girl in 1982. He accepted a plea deal, avoiding a longer sentence, and now will register as a sex offender. The case is drawing renewed attention to accountability on how power and influence intersect with justice. And next, a Kansas rabbi protest. In Kansas, Rabbi Moti Rebur was banned from the state Senate gallery after protesting an anti-trans bill. He interrupted the proceedings as lawmakers voted to override a veto on a bathroom bill. And honestly, this is what allyship looks like. Showing up, speaking out, and even if it cost you access. So thank you to the rabbi for standing by our community. Next, global LGBTQ plus moments. A few quick hits from around the world. Athlone, Ireland is hosting its first ever Pride Parade, a huge moment for visibility in the Midlands. Can't wait to hear more about that. News just came out about that yesterday. Next, Colby was crowned Miss International Queen USA 2026, spotlighting trans excellence. And our last little tidbit of news is, on this day, on 2001, April 1st, the Netherlands made history with the first legal same-sex marriages in Amsterdam, a moment that has changed the world. So let's go back and talk about what we learned this week. That visibility is powerful, laws still matter, and that sometimes the loudest contradictions come from people writing the rules. But through all of it, the protests, the policies, and the pushback, the LGBTQ plus community keeps showing up. And that's the story. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, share, and leave a review. And remember, stay loud, stay proud, stay aware, and always listen up. Thanks so much for joining. I'll be back tomorrow with more LGBTQ plus news.